What's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today I'm here with Paul, who got top 16 at the PPG Webcam event. Paul, how's it going, man?
It's going good. How you doing?
Cannot complain, cannot complain. So, you chose to play Soul Striker at this event. Now, this is really cool for a few reasons. One of which, I just love the deck. I'm a big fan of Soul Striker. Anyone who knows the channel would probably know that. The other thing, though, is I think blue is kind of starting to fall off a bit of a cliff here. Like, not a ton of people are playing blue at the moment. I feel like it's being perceived as like a weaker color. I don't generally think it's that weak, and I'm assuming obviously you don't think that way either because you chose to play the deck. So what really made you want to play blue, and what made you want to play Soul Striker?
All right, so in testing, obviously, past couple of weeks, Dark Broly, Red Broly, Vegeks. That's the deal. Everybody's rocking that. And blue obviously doesn't really have all that much aggression, except for Soul Striker sometimes. So basically, I'm just trying to defend, and I just want to get through those decks. And man, was I right that I was needing a deck to get through those decks, because that's all I saw.
So at the tournament, you played against a lot of Red Broly, Vegeks, and a lot of Dark Broly? Like, were those most of your matchups?
Well, actually, honestly, not a single Vegeks, but 3 Dark Brolys, a Red Broly, a Blue Baby, and a Gohan.
Gotcha. Okay, so a lot of aggro decks for sure. And I think it's kind of funny that like we're seeing less and less Vegeks. I think people just kind of know like, okay, Vegeks is gonna get a big nerf soon, so like I should probably just stop practicing it. I think that's kind of the reason for that. But I totally agree with your selection of Soul Striker. I think Soul Striker is a great pick into those aggro decks. You just have a lot of defensive tools. I think Soul Striker is honestly just the best middle of the road blue deck. It does a little bit of everything. Not so much like Blue Baby where it's ultra controlling, not so much like some other blue decks that focus in very specialized things, but it just does everything and it does it well. So I definitely like the choice. So we'll get into the main deck here. So you've got 6 unisons. Now I think most lists play 5, but I think 6 is absolutely fine. You're just increasing your consistency. So 4 Baby is the obvious one. Now I think most people are just picking the 5th slot between Raditz and SS3 Gogeta. You obviously went with one of each. So what was the reasoning behind that?
So basically, obviously, you need your unison if you want to awaken, unless you're already getting beat to death. But
Right.
Sometimes if you can mess with it right, you can figure out how to just make it so that you are awakening on the unison turn. And if you don't see the unison, man, it hurts. Oh my God, it hurts. Because even if you aren't going against somebody like Red Broly or Dark Broly, then they can, if they're smart enough, they're just going to stall you, and it's going to be the most annoying thing ever, because you don't really start drawing until you awaken, like hardcore. And I like the Raditz a lot because, of course, sometimes you need your blocker. It's like having another Goku hit on the board that's a unison. And then, of course, you got your Gogeta, because sometimes I felt like in tandem with the Goku hit, it was just the right spot. I'd randomly have that bad boy out there, and with the Goku hit, you'd be able to have 2 kind of deadly defenders on board.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the Gogeta also offers a lot of attacks, which is really nice. Were there any turn 3s in the tournament where you actually couldn't get to a unison, or did you have a unison every single turn 3 this tournament?
Every single turn 3.
That's a good feeling. That's a really, really good
Yes.
feeling. Alrighty, so going on to the rest of the stuff, some more of the staple stuff. So 4 God Sling, that's just super obvious. And then we have 4 Zamasu Sacred Disbelief paired with 3 Goku Hit. So this is one of the things that I really think, like, you know, I think it makes Soul Striker so much better than the other blue decks, because so many of the other blue decks don't play this stuff because they need, like, you know, all mono blue energy, or they need, like, you know, there's a lot of reasons why some blue decks just can't really afford to play the multicolor stuff, like Xeno ramping decks, for instance, as well. So Goku Hit is definitely one of the ways you can afford to be more aggressive, but also ultra defensive. So, I mean, would you go as far to say Goku Hit was like an MVP, a superstar of the deck? What would you say about it?
Yes, oh my gosh, he was the MVP. There'd be, of course, my curve would be turn 1 charge, swing pass, depending on if I go first or second, and then turn 2, I would always want to resolve my Goku Ape, no matter what, unless you're going against like Red Broly. Dark Broly, I'll reserve a Goku Ape turn 2 easy. Red Broly, oh my goodness, I would always have that energy available for a Zamasu and a Goku Hit on their turn, and it would just, you know, Red Broly doesn't have a single bit of removal,
Right.
So it absolutely worked fantastically.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's definitely my biggest pull towards Soul Striker. It's one of the best cards in the deck, in my opinion. All right, so now for your negate lineup, you got quite a few here. So, of course, the Baby Hatch, definitely the best SCR you can play in this deck by far. 4 Dimension Magic, 3 Heroic Prospect, and then 1 All Too Easy. So I'm assuming the 1 All Too Easy was for stuff like Invoker, maybe for like hand control. And then the 3 Heroic Prospect, I think this is a format where 4 of this card is very, very good. And I'm just kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but I noticed you're not siding a 4th copy. So did you ever wish you had like that extra Heroic Prospect, or was 3 okay?
Of course, man. I bought them back when they were 40 a piece, but good lord, they got expensive. Wish I had a 4th, could not afford it.
Fair enough, fair enough. And then the 1 All Too Easy, was that mostly for Invoker or hand control? What was the deal with that?
You hit it. You hit it right on it.
Pretty much both of those. Very cool. Alrighty, now we're
Which
going.
I didn't see any green. I didn't see any green. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. I think green is also one of those colors, very much like blue, that people are kind of just thinking, it's not so great. But I think green is solid as well. I think blue and green are definitely a little bit better than people are giving them credit for. So here is pretty much your mid-game pressure, your mid-game. There are bigger boss monsters in the deck than this, but this is like kind of your start of the boss monster onslaught. So I like these ratios a lot. You got 3 Obunis, 2 Murichums. Those 2 guys, I think people are definitely sold on the fact they're very, very good. But then Janemba Raging Incarnation of Evil is one that I think people still need to be convinced about a little bit. I love this card. I've been pushing it for a long time. How did this card in particular work out for you?
So in testing, obviously, we have all 3 of them in there because depending on what you're playing against, those are the options. You have options of what you're actually allowed to play without getting destroyed. Mm-hmm. So basically, against like black or red or anything like that, you can hit them with the Obuni if you get there. And then against green, you've got the Murichim. And then, of course, you got your Janemba for blue. Now, I went against Blue Baby, and Janemba absolutely monster stomped that deck.
Janemba is so good in Soul Striker, and one of my favorite plays, which is coming up in probably a second, like, you can play Janemba for 4, right? Leader Swing, untap 2, and then you can go resolve a Sand Instincts, and then at the end of the turn, Janemba's untapping 3. So, like, to me, that's like
draw again.
Yeah, and you draw again. Like, to me, that's one of the craziest plays this deck can do. And Janemba, for me, as long as you can make it to turn 4, like, Janemba is also really good against the aggro decks because he gives you that extra defensive energy. Now, moving along, kind of segueing right there, you're playing 4 Sand Instincts. So I think most lists play 3. 4, I don't think is bad by any means, but you mentioned you want to do this every single turn, too. So is that the main reason why you went with 4?
That's exactly right. And another back to the price thing, they were so expensive when I bought them. I didn't, pay a mortgage for a house in order to buy those cards, not to use all 4.
For sure, yeah, definitely get mileage out of them. I'm so happy. Like, there was a little bit of time where people were saying that Sand Instinct should be banned. I never really thought it was ban worthy. It's a really good card. They do have to do a little bit more in terms of reprinting it, but yeah, definitely a super solid card. And then, of course, the 4 being the 1 max power. I think the 1 max power is an excellent main deck in this deck. I think most blue decks should play it. I'm sure it came in clutch for you many times, right?
It did. It would help me out with Dark Broly blockers. It would help me out with Red Broly 5 drops, you name it.
Very, very cool. All right, so now here is like more of the top end stuff here. So we got the 3 Golden Avenger. Definitely makes a lot of sense with the Baby Unison, and just even in Soul Striker sometimes you can tap 5 for it. It's not even that bad because your leader can untap 2, right? And then you
honestly, dude, that's the way to do it. I mean, you can do the baby, you can activate the baby, but really the way to do it is just tap 5 for this bad boy, because then you can just plus again with your baby, draw more cards, use it as another swing, not lose your unison. I'd like tapping 5 for this more than even using it for free, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the discard 2 sometimes is very costly, right? Like, you do have a huge hand in this deck a lot of the time, but like, when you can just pay 5 for it instead of pitching 2, there are definitely circumstances where that's really, really good.
It almost feels like overkill sometimes, but it does feel good.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have 2 Paths to Infinite and 1 UI Sign Son Goku. So this is an engine that a lot of people have experimented with in Soul Striker. I feel like it's definitely hit or miss. Some people love it, some people hate it. You obviously chose to include it. So how did it end up working for you? Why did you want to include this engine?
It worked pretty well. I just really obviously like to loop Obuni when I'm actually in a match where I can play him, as well as Goku hit, because of how many Zamasu super combos I run. That's the main part that Path to the Infinite is in there. Just another 20k swing to keep looping my homies. Also, 1 Ultra Instinct, just because I had him in there at first as more than that, and then I had a buddy, convince me out of it, and then I had another buddy say, hey man, at least throw 1 in there. And I did, and it worked out great. But ironically, one of the only matches I was able, I got him off a couple of times, but one of the main matches I got him off was against Dark Broly, and I had to actually like use Sensu Beans on my Ultra Instinct to get him up to like 55, so that the Dark Broly's stupid activate battle wouldn't just negate the fact that he wasn't allowed to combo.
Yeah, that's pretty funny actually, because Dark Broly is technically not comboing. He's using activate battle. That's really, really funny actually. But it's pretty cool that it still ended up getting you that match. That's pretty funny there.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of the main deck, 1 Secret Identity, 1 Fu Shrouded, 1 Hidden Power E Supreme Kai for that sneaky double strike. Definitely love this stuff here. We'll go into the side deck, and I'll pretty much just let you take the reins and walk us through what your choices were here.
All right, so Koitsukai didn't come in even one time. I didn't know if I was going to go against any Bulma or anything like that, Topo, whatnot. I just wasn't sure. Figured Koitsukai was good enough to be in there. Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, I thought Vegeks was the way. I thought Vegeks was, everybody was going to be doing that, and I also had it in there for Red Broly, which I sided it in, didn't see it, still ended up winning the match. It was good. And then Meki Kabura also for Dark Broly and Red Broly. That's exactly what that's in there for, mainly just those two decks. You call 5-drop Red Broly or a Red Broly BR, or a 6-drop Dark Broly, and then you really hurt their turn. But let me tell you the main thing I did with Meki Kabura. Like I said, I had so many matches against Dark Broly, I started to figure out throughout the day that I'm just going to start playing Meki Kabura and calling Meki Kabura so they couldn't call my baby Hatchak.
Oh wow, okay, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
And it worked. It worked good. Because, of course, if they did call the Hatchak, I would just Trunks them, and if they would call the Trunks, I would Hatchak. But I would still throw the Meki Kabura down late game because they would know to call the Hatchak late game, and I would prevent it. And then we have the Riot Javelin. Of course, I was terrified of all the blue hate. I figured everybody would be siding the blue hate. I only saw it against one match, maybe 2 matches, but I didn't want them to stop me from untapping or countering or anything like that. So I had that in there for that, and of course, Invoker. Dirty Burst, I was afraid of green. Don't like Cell Zeno because I'm not really allowed to counterplay it, but at least I had this counterplay for it. Didn't play against any green. And then Protector of the People, didn't play against Vegeks, so half my sideboard didn't really even come in.
Gotcha. So I guess in hindsight, it's kind of weird to ask this question, but like with the main deck and side deck now being covered, is there anything you would change or alter at all?
Yeah, I probably would have put more things in the side to help me with Dark Broly, because I should have known that I was going to be the only thing I saw. I kind of knew, which is why I played this deck, but I just probably would have researched more and figured out more things to help me against that, because that got a little annoying all day.
Gotcha. So with that being said, that's the entire deck. I really appreciate your time, Paul. Any shout outs you want to get out there?
Yeah, man, I play on Facebook with a couple of people. I appreciate you guys in the metaverse, as well as we're going to do Sean Knows, Team 7-Star, my homies Jalil, do all the testing, Super Scoop Squad. I appreciate it. Dude, you're the man.
Awesome, man. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next time.
All right, homie.